Thank you and good morning. Today is Monday, June 17th, 2024. My name is Roxana Gumucio. I am the Executive Director with the Tennessee Cosmetology and Barber Examiners Board. And I'm going to go ahead and do a roll call vote to get us started. It is 9 a.m. This meeting had previously been scheduled for June the 3rd and had to be rescheduled. So I want to welcome those participating in the team. Hopefully you can all hear us okay. This recording will be posted as soon as the meeting ends. So the first item of business, Chairman Gillihan, I'll turn it over to you to get us started.
This meeting of the Cosmetology and Barber Board of Examiners is called to order. We'll start off with a roll call.
Thank you. When I say your names, please go ahead and say that you are here. That way we'll make sure to have quorum. Terry Baldwin.
Present.
Anita Charlton. Present. Ron Gillihan.
Present.
Monica Lemon. Present. Judy McAllister. Present. David McElry.
Present.
Jeffrey Moran.
Present.
Becky Russell. Present. Ryan Simmons.
Present.
And Tamika Turner.
Present.
Thank you, Chairman Gillihan. We have a quorum with all of our members here except for two. Thank you.
Thank you, Roxana. As always, we want to extend an acknowledgement and appreciation to any visitors we have joining us telephonically or electronically in any way. This meeting is open to the public. At the end of this meeting today, we will have a moment of time for public comments. At this time, we will need a motion to approve the minutes from the April 2024 meeting. Are there any additions, corrections, or deletions?
So moved for acceptance.
We have a motion to accept. You have a second?
I second.
A motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. And that motion was made by David McElry and seconded by Monica Lemon, and all approved to continue. Thank you, Chairman Gillihan.
The next item on the agenda today is for the appearing before the board, and we have some schools.
Thank you, sir. I will go ahead and members get us started with that. The first school presented before you is Kingsport Academy of Hair Design. This is a change of ownership, and it is the first application on your iPad. On the call, joining us today is the new owner, Ms. Angela Brand. If you're there and can hear me, can we test your mic and make sure you can hear us okay?
Yes, ma'am, I can. Good morning.
Morning. Thank you so much. So Chairman Gillihan, you have before you the application. The school had been licensed since 2000 for the change of ownership. You have the enrollment agreement, catalog, contingency plan, and they were all received timely. I will turn that over to you.
Thank you, Roxana. I wanted to make sure, what was the last name of the applicant?
Brand, B-R-A-A, Angela.
Thank you for joining us online. We'd like to start out by asking you to tell us a little bit about your school and your program. This is a change of ownership, correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, it is. Good morning. My name is Angela Braun. I actually became a student of Kingsport Academy last year. And while being a student here to get my instructor's hours, the owner and I became very acquainted, and I realized she was ready to retire. And so she had an aesthetics program here when I started, but that is since ceased because I do not have an instructor for that program. But I also, in turn, added the natural hairstyling program. So at this point, we just have the nail tech program, the natural hairstylist, and cosmetology. Right now, we have 14 students enrolled, and so far, so good.
That sounds great. You're not changing anything about your location or the physical plant?
Oh, no, sir. No, sir. Everything is exactly like it was before I purchased it.
Okay. Question for you about your some of your paperwork. Did you simply adopt the enrollment packages and catalogs that were already there in the purchase, or did you recreate?
No, sir. I had to recreate. Yeah, I had to recreate because thank God for Miss Roxana who helped me through this unexpected process. There were a lot of things that needed to be updated for the new laws and things like that.
Okay, great. I would ask our members, as we're speaking, asking questions, please speak up. It may be a little difficult for this machine to pick up from where we're sitting today. As I go through your paperwork, one of the first notes that I had was just a very simple thing in your application, I think. Your information is identified as an enrollment application. Are you intending that to be your enrollment contract, your enrollment agreement, or is application the actual terminology you need to use here?
So it's actually the application and contract. I kind of put them all together because when it's in their folders, it's easier for me to find and know which page talks about what, and so I would probably say more like an application and contract.
Okay. Just for clarity, and this is just a suggestion on my part, it's your document, you do what you need to do with it, but it could be a bit confusing to students if they're applying for school here or if they're actually enrolling. It may be important for them to know that they are enrolling in something. Okay?
Okay. Yes, sir.
Let's see. As I go down my list, I do know that you have schedules in here, and I just had a simple question about this. For our members on our page 11, in your enrollment options, am I understanding this correctly? If this is your enrollment agreement document, the student would simply check the box here under your enrollment options, cosmetology, natural hair, so forth, and then that's how you're selecting the program.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And then they would check the box on the daily and hourly schedules as well.
Yes, sir.
All right. Okay. In your documentation here, maybe you can point it out to me on where I would find it, but I'm not seeing where, I do see on your first page of your document, page number 2 for you and 8 for us, you do have a start date listed here, but I don't see any information where you're identifying the student's scheduled completion date, the number of weeks. Other than,
yes, that would be on for my page. It is the tuition and refund policy on my page 13.
Okay, give me just a minute.
Okay.
Our page 19.
Yes, thank you. Okay. All right, that's just exactly what I was looking for on that. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
And the schedules you have under the checkbox scenario is the only schedules you have for each of those
Yes, sir.
programs?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. There is one notation that I typically find quite often, and you're almost there. You do have, I believe, an acknowledgement that, well, let me back up. Do you have an acknowledgement that the student has read, understands, and received the agreement before they made any payments?
Oh, so I have So the right based on class enrollment. No, I think it just says the agreement constitutes a binding contract between the students. Well, I'm not going to insult your intelligence and read it to you, but it does not say upon receipt.
That is a requirement to have that full statement that they student has acknowledges that they have read, understand, and have received it. And the
Okay.
part that's typically missing, Ms. Braun, is before making any payments.
Got you. Okay. I will do that ASAP.
Am I correct that you're going to be doing the instructor training as well?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I failed to mention that. Yes, sir.
Can you direct me to where you have your statement that identifies that any student enrolling in a teaching program, instructor training, is notified that they must have a license as a practitioner for 3 years?
Yes,
Prior
that
to-
is on page 22. My 22, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay. There we go. And you're not anticipating doing apprentice programs?
No, sir. No, sir. No, sir.
One more thing. Can you describe to me how you intend to keep your full-time and part-time student files separate?
I actually have two different file cabinets for them now. So I have one on the left side of my office and one on the right side. One is for part-time and one is for full-time students.
It says it on our page 18.
18.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay. One last note that I had here. Can you tell me a little bit more about Teach Out program or your Teach Out policy or your emergency?
So I've reached out to a couple of schools. Yeah, I've reached out to a couple of schools already. So if God forbid I die or the building burns down, we have I've talked to a couple of schools locally, and what we'll do is per like in our refund policy, how many hours that they have occurred, we will subtract that $6 per hour. And if they have already paid their tuition in full, then they would be refunded those monies, and then they would be able to go to another school and enroll under the same program, so that they won't lose any money or hours once if the school, God forbid, ever has to be shut down.
So they do have an option, but you don't have a contract with any other schools or anything like that. You just
No, I don't have any. Yeah, I just spoke with a few of them.
okay, that's fine. Okay. Those are the questions that I had. Members, do any members have questions?
Can you tell me a little bit about how your hybrid program will work?
So because we are fortunate enough to use the pivot point program, we choose one Monday a month that we kind of do hybrid. I love the option because it gives the students an extra day a month to earn hours. And then it also gives us an opportunity to stay home and learn. And the Pivot Point program, I'm sure you're familiar with, has a lot of activities and things. So normally we'll go Zoom and we'll talk about the lesson, that whether it be theory or whether we talk about some of our hands-on opportunities. And we really make it really, really fun. The last one we had, we actually made it's going to sound very elementary, but we made scrapbooks out of state board policies when they go take their state board exam. And we went over that and they really enjoyed it. They brought their presentations in the next day. And it's another way to make it really fun and just be able to earn extra hours once a month.
And you said that you use Zoom.
Yes, ma'am.
The only other note that I have is that your page 4 and 5, you've got listed
Yes, ma'am.
requirement as a high school diploma or GED. And then later, it says a 10th grade education. So I think that it
Mhm.
could be a little thing on which one that they need. Any of those
Okay.
work, you can probably put them all together so that it,
Okay.
uh,
Be clarified. Yes, I see.
that's the only other notes that I have for you.
Thank you.
In regards to, the different programs that are listed, will they be running at the same time in the same classroom? Because I was looking at the floor plan versus the, hours. I see it's full-time and part-time, but it's not separated, as far as each discipline. So how
So right
will,
now I have, I'm sorry, go ahead. I don't want to interrupt you.
For the record.
So right now
Ms. Turner.
okay, hey, Ms. Turner. I have a junior instructor right now that is helping me with those. I have one nail tech that I've inherited when I bought the school. My plan is to actually maybe not keep it until I can get a full-time instructor. But right now, we'll do, because I do the natural hairstylist program. That's my phase. So my junior instructor would take care of the Cosmo students in the classroom. I'll take care of the natural hairstylist student in our back room. When you come to the school, you'll see the area that we've allotted for that. And our nail tech student is a full-time student. So I go over her theory and things like that after lunch, so that she since she's the only one here, and I don't have any instructor trainees or anything like that yet.
Turner, did that answer your question?
kinda,
Are the classrooms, I
Yeah.
think the key question is, they cannot be in the same classroom as you're doing your theory hours. And so are your classrooms or hours gonna be split to where the students have their own theory area?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Do we have any other questions?
I have a
Excuse
suggestion
me.
for the different
Excuse
programs
me.
on the, on the front end, because, you get approved and then tomorrow you get 20 students. They would,
Yes.
I don't know if I'm in natural hair, how do I know what time my theory is versus the cosmetology theory? Like, it should be
Gotcha.
scheduled with it.
So you
Okay.
think you'd like to get specific to that, and that would apply to each?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. It's a great idea, actually.
Thank you, Turner. Any other member? Okay. I think the corrections that have been suggested and to more clearly identify the contract as either a contract as well as application, so they know what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Be very helpful here. Do we have a motion?
So moved. I second it.
We have a motion to approve the school with those changes. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carries. The motion was by Dave and second by Jeff Moran.
Thank you, yes. Motion David McElreath and the second Jeffrey Moran, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Congratulations with your school and good luck.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
And you'll send me those updates, and then once those are approved, a field inspection will be needed. Is the board okay with just a field inspector? And you and I'll coordinate that
Oh.
inspection.
Yes, ma'am.
Members, our next school is a new cosmetology school. Mr. Mike Franklin is joining us telephonically. Mr. Franklin, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you. Just wanted to test your mic. This application starts on your page 36 on your iPad, and this is a school that has been licensed as a barber school since 2023, so they are adding the cosmetology program. The school is located in Cookville. You have before you the floor plan, enrollment agreement, catalog, and contingency plan. All will be timely. Chairman Gillian, I'll turn it over to you, sir.
Thank you, Ms. Roxana. Mr. Franklin, if you would like, we'd like to hear a little bit about your school and what you're proposing here.
Yes, sir. Well, I want to thank the board for your consideration in expanding Aspire from a barber only to a dual barber and cosmetology school. We've been instructing future barbers for about 15 months now. We have graduated 7, all 7 passed their boards, most of them on the first try, and every single one have been hired at their first choice of salon or barbershop. So we're very proud of that. We currently have 12 students enrolled and going to class, and we have 5 signed up for our August class, the class that starts in August. So we should have 1 more graduate, so we'll have 16 at that point. We understand that the Upper Cumberland has limited options for students that are coming out of high school with cosmetology credits. TCAT is the only real option that they have, and we want them to be able to have the same opportunities as students starting fresh in the program.
That sounds really great. Thank you for joining us today on your call.
Chairman Gillian, if I could interrupt, I think I missed stating the name of the school. This is Aspire Barber and Beauty Academy. So
Okay.
I want to say it on the record. Thank you, sir.
Aspire Barber and Beauty
Barber.
Academy. Mr. Franklin, probably will start out with something that Ms. Turner brought up just a minute ago. Do you have sufficient class space, and how are you identifying the schedules so that your cosmetology programs and your barbers are not in the classroom at the same time?
Yes, we have. If you notice on the blueprint, we have 2 separate rooms. One of them is notated as a conference room, but we will change that into another classroom. It has availability for approximately seating of 12 students. Our anticipation is that cosmetology will overtake barbering very quickly, because the majority of our students are female and would go toward cosmetology as opposed to barbering if we had that option. So we'll probably move the barbering into that section. And we have the classroom that is capable of seating 30 students. We will never have more than 32 students in both programs combined anyway. Our max class size each time that we start classes is 6, because we want to keep it at a level that the instructors can actually teach them what they need to know hands-on, give them that one-on-one time that they need.
I noticed your total square foot area of your property is absolutely sufficient to house both crafts. In your diagram, you have your cosmetology stations and your barber stations listed there.
Yes.
How many cosmetology stations separate from the barber chairs can we identify here?
Let me open that myself. I think it's 18. Bear with me just a second and let me open that as well. Floor plan.
Mr. Franklin, I don't know that your plan gives us the right count. Sometimes the drawings don't fit on the plan. To to Chairman Gillian's point, you'll need to make sure that you go back to the equipment list and that you have the right number of cosmetology stations, which I believe is 20, and barber stations, which I believe are 15. So they will need to be separate stations in case you need to update the floor plan.
Okay, update the floor plan. It's 20 for the cosmetology.
That's correct. And 15 for the barber, which should be.
15 for barber.
If the floor plan isn't identical, you know, if it's like 2 for 1, if you can't fit it, as long as you've got a note at the bottom, the inspectors, when they go to inspect, will understand. They'll be counting for the minimum requirement.
Okay, can you explain that to me? I'm sorry. So we have to
the requirement for a cosmetology license, school license, is that you have 20 chairs, and also for the barber is 15. So you're looking at a total of space for at least 35 separate chairs.
So we need to have 35 separate stations.
35 separate stations.
Perfect.
And then again, to Ms. Roxana's point, we recognize sometimes on these drawings that you're not able to draw things in exactly as they should be, and the inspector, if you make a note on the on your drawings, the inspector will know that when he comes in, it may not look exactly as the drawing, but a chair may be in one corner as opposed to the other.
Gotcha. Okay, I understand. Thank you.
But you do need to have at least that minimum number of stations.
Okay, yes, I need to add 3 stations. We only have 32 currently, so I will need to add 3 stations. Thank you for that.
Let's see. Miss Becky, do you have anything you want to add to this while I'm looking through some notes?
Your curriculums, you need to just give me a copy and paste. There has been some interpretation, some edits, some deletions. So if you will go back and change all of your curriculums to an exact copy and paste from the board rules. The sheet the student signs, you are, as the best I can tell, you're missing the before payment statement, so they have read and understand before they make a payment. So if you've got that in there, you can let us know, but I didn't see that.
Okay, so I have on page 13, the end, I acknowledge that I've read and understand the terms of agreement in receipt of a copy of this agreement. So I just need to add prior to payment.
Yes.
Add prior to payment. Prior, okay.
Are you going to offer the apprenticeship program?
That is not in the plans.
How many instructors are currently on staff?
We have 3 we have 1 instructor, 1 main instructor. We have 1 junior instructor, and we have 1 who has finished the barber instructor training but has not yet taken her test.
And your main instructor is a cosmetology instructor? As
Main
well as a barber?
main instructor is a barber instructor. But we have Deborah Fletcher, who is going to start as soon as we get the program up and going. That will be a cosmetology instructor. She's dual licensed instructor. So at that point, we should have 4 by the time we get this up and going.
One more question that I had for you. Can you direct me to the place where you note that an instructor must be licensed for at least 3 years before they take their test?
I believe that's on page 11 of the enrollment agreement. Bear with me just one second. Yes, page 11 under admissions requirements, students applying for enrollment in the instructor program in barber or in cosmetology instructor program must hold a current active license, be registered for a minimum of 3 years and have a high school diploma or GED. But I just noticed that it says be a duly registered master barber. I need to add cosmetology in there.
Thank you.
That's a good catch. I was just looking at that. I do see your sanitation policy. That's great. I'd like to back up just a beat here if we could. When we're talking about your instructing staff, your student-teacher ratios for the barber program, I believe, are 15-1. And on the cosmetology side, it's 20-1.
Okay.
Your projected enrollment without that one instructor crossing over all day long from one to the other, is that going to be workable for you?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Yes, as I said, we should have, well, we will definitely have one full-time barber instructor, one full-time cosmetology instructor, and 2 part-time barber instructors by the time we open the cosmetology program.
Beautiful. What is your backup method for logging your student hours?
On page 99.
99? Okay, thank you. Very good. I did want to congratulate you on one thing on your page 11 under your graduation requirements. You actually spell out that the students have to complete the one-time domestic violence education. It's not a requirement that has to be stated in that because it is a typical state requirement, but I do appreciate that you put that in there so people will know and not be surprised.
Well, I thank Miss Roxana for that because she said that would be helpful.
Okay. And can you tell me a little bit about your teach out program in case of emergency?
Yes. Let me get to that as well.
I know you have one in there, but
bear with me just one second. Are you referring to if we have like a pandemic type situation or if we have to close?
either or both.
Okay. If we have I am, my degree is in information technology, so I'm pretty good with computer type things. So if we had some type of COVID-20 or something like that, what we would do is try to do what we could over Zoom or one of the other platforms that allows for online teaching. That, I mean, based on what the government decides we have to do is what we would try to do in that regard. I know
If your schools are closed.
we had to be down for 7 weeks when COVID-19 hit. So, you just don't know until it comes what you're going to have to do with that. But we do have a virtual platform that we would be able to use in that aspect. If we had to close the entire school for on a permanent basis, we have talked with, and I worked with TBR for a long time, so I know several people at TCAT in Livingston, and we have spoken to them about transferring hours if that was necessary. And Miss Laura Meadows said that would be not be a problem, that we could transfer hours directly and work with them on a pretty direct basis in order to get the students into that program.
In a TCAT program, that would be dependent on their availability.
Absolutely. Yes.
Members, do we have any other questions?
I don't have a question, but I do have a statement in regard to Tamika Turner. I have a statement in regard to school closure or any of the virtual platforms, just understanding that a teacher must be present with the students. They can't do it self-paced. The student and the teacher have to be present. I noticed that you said that if they're unable to attend, then you'll upload to your school's YouTube page. But in order for them to receive hours, the student and the teacher must be present.
Okay.
It has to be synchronous.
Yeah.
So do you intend to offer any of your courses virtually outside the emergency scenario?
Not unless, no, not unless we absolutely had to, would we go virtual. I don't feel like that's a very conducive way of learning for the students, especially in an industry such as this.
Do we have any other questions? Do we have a motion?
So moved.
We have a motion by David to approve, and was it you, Monica?
I second, yes.
And Monica second, with the suggestions made.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed say no. The motion carries, and we would set an inspection.
Field inspector only. Yes, thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you. Congratulations, Mr. Franklin.
Good luck with your program.
Thank
Wish
you so
all the
much.
Thank you. Members,
Thank
if it's
you.
okay, go ahead and board, if we skip and finish everything that's on the presentation and then come back to legal toward the end, we've got just a few more items. On your iPads, we will go ahead then and proceed with the applications for examination. They start on page 77. These are applicants with felonies. They are Ashley Crows, DeVory Smith, Patrick Von Thurman, and Danielle Watkins. Applicants might be currently incarcerated, and if so, any felony that they've had, they would need to present the items that the board reviewed. They are requesting to take the examination. And so before you, you've got their statement as well as the school. This information is disclosed for you to review. Two of these applicants were not incarcerated. They are currently out. And so I have already, with legal counsel's assistance, we've done the agreed order for the 2 years as we usually do, and the board has given us permission. So those individuals have already been licensed and working. So we will be approving these orders that have already gone out. But in general, we do the 2-year agreed order, and once that's signed, we proceed licensing them. So if you've got any questions, I welcome those. Otherwise, we would need to approve these 4 individuals.
There's one on here, the aggravated rape.
Yes, ma'am.
Instead of the 2 years, could we do 3 years on that one?
Yes. Could you give me that name for the record? Because we will need it.
Patrick Thurman?
Yes.
That was Miss Judy McAllister.
Thank you.
Ms. Roxana,
Yes.
I received a message from Patrick Thurman personally about his license. He's not incarcerated with us. You know, we have a prison program as well. He was trying to renew a license, that he already holds in prison. And, they were asking who does he need to speak with? He, sent in an email and, he left a message for Ms. Blake. He was trying to renew and do his he has instructor license as well or something. Yeah, so, he never received any information in regards to that, how to renew because his time was coming up, before it expired. I think it expired last
I will look at that.
month.
These
Yeah.
exams are current, and
Mhm.
so there's no license you can renew if you just tested in February of 2024.
Okay.
It's very possible that he submitted the exam, said yes to the felony, and we
Yeah.
couldn't communicate with him.
Yeah.
So he would still, there's no renewal.
Mhm.
This is gonna be his first license,
Mhm.
I believe, from what I'm looking at.
Mhm.
And these exams are for the instructor piece, and so we'll connect all those pieces, if he hasn't heard back.
Okay.
If he is currently incarcerated and there's a reinstatement or an exam he did, we would still need the agreed order.
Okay.
And so if the board so chooses to do the 3-year order, that's fine, we'll do the others for the 2 years. And just for the members' information and anyone that's watching, we've never really denied anyone with a felony. The agreed order they, enter with legal and with the board is to make sure that there is no other felony or situation that comes up, in which case the board would proceed with discipline faster in a different track. But, I'll look at him personally, to make sure he's okay. Thank you.
Are there any other, changes or recommendations?
I'll make a motion to approve.
We have a motion, by David to approve with the signed agreed orders, as stated,
I second that.
properly seconded. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carries.
Thank you. And that motion was by, David McElroy, second by Judy McAllister, to approve 3 of the individuals stated with a 2-year order and 1 with a 3-year
Correct.
order. Thank you so much. Members, I'll let you, turn to page 97. We're going to address 4 miscellaneous applicants. As you know, we always have the information presented before you. On occasion, if an applicant has chosen to dial in, we'll make sure to give them an opportunity. But for the most part, with our miscellaneous, everything should be in front of you. The first item for consideration is a request to waive the reexamination. This is pursuant to Rule 0440-01-.10, which states that the applicant must apply for and pay for their original license within 6 months. The board, for good cause, may waive or extend that requirement. They have also given me the authority to extend 6 additional months. So you have before you, Dusty Gleason. Ms. Gleason has provided an explanation regarding the medical issues that she endured, and her exam is for the practical exam for the instructor, which she took December 2nd, 2022. So if the board's in agreement, we would need a motion to accept that and not have her retest.
Make the motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion to approve, this application by, Ms. Judy and seconded by, David. Is there any other questions or discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Next on your iPads, and this is on page 98. I apologize. Our next applicant is Ms. Adara Harden. She is requesting that the board waive her requirement to retest. This is pursuant to Tennessee Code annotated 62-4-117D, which states that an expired cosmetologist shall pass the examination and pay the specified license fee. Ms. Harden has presented a letter explaining her unique situation and personal items that she's endured, and so before you, I will let you review the application in case you have any questions or concerns. And her request starts on page 106, I apologize. one that raises a hand or questions while we're in the miscellaneous, let me know. Otherwise, we will get through these, here very quickly.
Roxana, this one is simply asking for an extension of the time.
It is actually to waive the requirement to retest for good cause. And so you have two applicants this time, with similar unique situations that they've endured that are asking for us to waive those exams. As you know, if a license lapses and is expired for more than 3 years, you must take the laws and rules. So that's generally 25 questions. And then the practical, there's no, those are required after the 3 years. The law added, I believe, a year ago, if you had a license for 20 years or longer, and the license had not lapsed more than 8 years, those exams would be waived. So I believe with that criteria in mind, we might be presenting more of these. We want to be understanding to these individuals that have missed that and would have to test. We will be presenting only those with unique circumstances before you, and because our licensees often do have to test. In this case and the next, they did not have a license for 20 years, and they've been expired for much longer. So what you'd be waiving is the need for examinations. Mr. Gillian, if you remember, I think the very first one we did like this was someone that had been incarcerated and couldn't renew, right? That's a unique life situation where it was out of
Yes.
their control, and we definitely wanted to see them start back on track. So
Yes.
we've extended this very rarely for those types of situations. This one and the next have things such as domestic violence that kept them from being able to really focus on their careers. So the board has that discretion, especially with that law that allows those with 20 years or more. But it is at it's your decision.
We always want to be careful about the slippery slope, but some of these circumstances are really, really severe. Okay. Members, do we have any questions or any discussions?
Now, when it comes to retest, can we just waive the fees and allow them to just retest so it's not a financial burden for them?
So what I can say to that is PSI is a private vendor.
Okay.
We could not dictate that they waive the fee.
Okay.
We also do not waive our fee. We can waive the penalty, and I do that as often as it's needed, but the fee for the license is the way we are self-sufficient, so we can get into that. So financially, they've got to be ready to get the license.
Got it. Well, they would be anyhow, correct?
Correct,
Okay.
correct. But if we waive the exam, you're right, then financially, then they wouldn't have, those.
And then there is the component as well, if they're, on some circumstances, they're, on some types of assistance, then there's a fee waiver in some of those.
Only for the initial license. So the law that passed for us to waive is to welcome you to the industry so you can start working. Our reinstatements wouldn't qualify as the law is written right now.
Do we have a motion on this application?
I would like to, Tamika Turner, make a motion, to allow her to, reinstate her license, without testing. I was on the fence until I got to the part where she has been in trauma therapy and, rehab, and she's completed those things already. And like she said, that it was not her own fault that these things happened to her. And, I would like to make a motion to allow her to reinstate without testing.
Second that.
We have a motion by Ms. Turner, seconded by Ms. Judy McAllister to reinstate without testing. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you, members. Starting on page 112, our next applicant is Gloria D. Smith. Ms. Smith is requesting the board waive the requirements pursuant to Tennessee Code 50P-3-1296, and this is for the Master Barber expired license. If it has been expired for more than 3 years, the requirement is that they pass the law exam and then the practical, as well as pay the licensing fee. She is also requesting a waiver that is pursuant to Tennessee Code 62-4-117D, which would address her aesthetics license. Also expired, and the need to pay for the license when that is completed. You have before you the documents to review her information. It is somewhat similar to our prior applicant. In this particular case, as Mr. Ryan Simmons mentioned, the fee itself cannot be waived. That's not at the board's discretion. We would be having to present probably anyone that has a hardship for the fee. So that piece cannot be waived. So she's requesting the exams for both those licenses. It's at the board's discretion to waive one or both. I do want to let you know she has also a separate and active manicure license. So very few of our individuals have 3 licenses. They are important to her. But as the board knows, you don't necessarily need the 3. Just something to consider. Whether you're approving the barber license, that one does allow you to do manicuring as well as aesthetics and obviously hair. So it's at your discretion. Her request is for those 2 different exams, but it would be your decision how to proceed.
She had expired previously in 2012 and renewed and expired again in 2014. Members, do we have any questions?
Yeah, I got one. Jeffrey Moran. She's wanting to have 3 licenses renewed. Is that what she's wanting to do there?
Yes.
Correct.
If the board approves waiving the exams for her master barber license, and if the board approves waiving her exams for aesthetics, she would have 3. She currently has an active manicure license.
Gotcha.
Examining the record, it appears to me, and it's a little difficult to discern, but it appears to me that the suspension or the lack of licensure related to the student loan. In my experience, it appears that that's probably not a federal student loan through the Title IV system, but it's probably some payment arrangement directly through the school, which at the time permitted schools to hold hours. So that may be what we're seeing with that one.
Mm-hmm. Now, that has nothing to do with
Exactly.
with her current expired license, but yes, with all of our applicants, you'll see the payment history and all the information of the license. So that's what you're seeing.
just part of that history.
So we're talking the requirement to take the test on the law.
Yes, in the practice portion.
Oops,
The law and the practice. Okay.
How long have those been expired?
One of them, I believe, since 2014, the other one maybe 2017. So she, similar to our previous applicant, has not been licensed for 20 years, and the licenses have been expired more than the 3 to 8. And so without the 20 years, the law is very clear. The reinstatement includes the law exam, which is the law of rules. That would be the theory and the practical. So we just approved one individual, sort of similar.
For a person with 3 licensures, though, they've been through 3 law exams, 3 programs, 3 full educations for that. So
Correct.
they should know.
Yeah.
And then still hold a current license.
Still holds current license.
Now, the license she holds, right, is only for Stanton.
Yes.
So that's just something to consider.
have the laws changed significantly enough to make the test different? Where we want to validate their knowledge of current law.
In the last 10 years, we've had quite a few law changes. Yes, regulations, our board regulations as well as statutes.
So they've shown competency at the time they took the test, but we don't know if they're still competent related to the changes.
I think that'd be fair.
I would be reluctant to waive the test.
Now, all I want to do is remind you, we just waived the exam from the department, right? So, and it's not that their situations are identical, but they're pretty close as far as what life events kept them from their career options. But 2 requirements, and having already a license, back to Ms. Turner's point, she does have a license right now, it just doesn't let her do all the perspectives.
I was saying that in regards to renewed, you kept this one renewed and not the others. That's why I was saying, making that.
And some of that is timing, right? I believe, and I don't have the manager's license in front of me, but it didn't quite expire as long. On that one, I was able to waive the fee to help her get that license back. The initials we wouldn't be able to waive. So if the board is looking maybe for consistency, the barber license would be the one that would allow her to do everything. I know they all mean a lot to her, just from having spoken to her several times, but it is at your discretion, how you proceed.
You posed a very good question about significance of the law changes and the rule changes. Many of the changes simply were removing regulations that have been out there. Some of the changes that we've made have been more focused on, I guess I would say, equipment, sanitation, and things like that. Curriculums haven't changed. Reaching back into the previous case, to Roxanne's point, I think, if I'm recalling correctly, that individual simply had 1 licensure. Okay? So significant difference here is that this one has 3 licensures. Okay? If we approve the barber aspect of this, then that does not limit this practitioner from performing any of the skill sets they would need to do. With the addition of being able to use straight razors as barbers typically do. If we deny the barber and authorize the cosmetology side.
And it's the aesthetics.
Oh, I'm sorry, the
Yes,
aesthetics, pardon me, the aesthetics. Then the aesthetics would limit many of the things that the barber would be able to do. Okay. So I'm just putting that out there for you to think about. if you're considering approving one or both or all or none. The least limiting, in my opinion, would be approving the barber, or both, all.
I make the recommendation that we approve with taking the barber board, using as an umbrella for the other discipline.
So we have a motion to approve the barber segment of this request.
It allowed us an umbrella for the other two disciplines.
Do we have a second?
I will second that.
Ms. McAllister had the second. Members, I know this seems a little complicated on this one. Is there any other discussion or questions?
I mean, more of, if you're gonna allow barber with straight razor, right, what's the difference then for allowing esthetician? That's the more minimal invasive of the.
Again, that's a great point. The esthetician doesn't cut hair.
I believe the motion is to only waive the requirement to test for the master barber,
Requiring testing.
not requiring.
Not requiring
Not
the testing
requiring.
for master barber. For the
That's
esthetician, they
going
would.
to be waived.
But requiring testing for esthetician.
When she's ready, she can do that on her own whenever she wants.
Sure.
If I'm understanding the motion, is that correct?
For the master barber.
David, it is to waive the exam, to reinstate the master barber, and we have a motion by David McElroy and a second by Judy McAllister.
Is that correct? It makes sense to y'all.
I
I'd
get,
like to note for the licensee, while I understand that you feel like your license is important in all of them, you're listing a financial hardship as one of the reasons. And in the future, if you will renew your barber license only, that will be a third of the cost of having to renew each license separately. And again, I understand, but it will allow you to continue moving forward. If today we waive these license or the requirements, I don't want you to end up in this situation again. I don't want to see your name come across again. So if you will just keep up with the barber's license for a third of the cost of all three, then you won't be put in this situation again.
This applicant's not on our college.
I don't believe.
I am on the phone. I'm listening. This is the licensee that you all are discussing. Good morning, Mr. Gillihan and Mrs. Gamusio. So if anyone has any questions for me, I do have a long list of extenuating unique circumstances, and it is my humble plea to have the penalties waived for the fees for late licenses and so forth. And what you mentioned, Mr. Gillihan, about the student loans, that was not through a payment plan with the school. There was a discrepancy with my license. There is someone else in the state who has the same name as myself. My license was suspended, and I never took out any student loans from the government for that master barber license. I had received a grant from the Memphis Area Career Center and then did self-pay because I went to two separate barber schools.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yes, sir. So, any questions that you have, I'm willing to answer them, but this is the one thing at this season in my life that I need to have reinstated. Both of them, and I will do everything that I can to keep up with all three of them. When there's a medical and a financial hardship in a person's life, I gave service to take care of my mother. I never did work in the industry. If I had worked in the industry, I would have had the money to keep the licenses up. And I ask that based upon integrity and that you all trust me to please reinstate these licenses without the late penalties and so forth. I do have a mission that I need to fulfill with these licenses to inspire other people, especially a lot of men and women with crime prevention in our communities. You mentioned this morning that there are individuals incarcerated that are doing barbering while they're in custody, losing their license while they're in custody, and when they come home, they need to look forward to doing something. And with every fiber in my body, I need you all to please rule in my favor to reinstate both of these licenses. I promise to make good on them.
Excuse me, this is Mr. Gillihan. I have a question or a clarification for you. Did I understand you to say that after licensure, you did not work in the industry as a practitioner?
No, I had not. I wound up taking care of my mother. I wound up taking care of my mother. I'm so sorry. You just broke up a little bit. I thought I heard you say that I work as an esthetician.
Did you work as a practitioner under either of the licenses?
No, sir, I did not. I was busy taking care of my mother, who was a 2-time cancer survivor, and I had gainful employment in a different industry.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome, sir.
Okay, members, and we appreciate your input. I'm glad that you were on the line to kind of clarify some things.
Yes,
so
sir.
We have a motion on the floor to approve this waiver of the barber component.
And if I could clarify just based on a couple of other points. I believe the motion is to waive the reinstatement exams for the master barber only, nothing to do with the fees.
Correct.
We do not have
We don't have that.
to start waiving reinstatement and initial fees, unfortunately. So I just want to make sure I've got my motion right. So Chairman Gillihan, I know you've had further discussions. I'll let you proceed and finish the motion.
Thank you, Roxana. That's exactly right. This is just to waive the exam. We cannot waive fees.
Motion second.
Okay. We do have a motion and a second to waive this exam. To be clear, if we authorize, if we vote in favor of waiving this exam, then that would allow a license to be sent to this.
She would have to renew
the fees.
The reinstatement. There are no penalties, just to be clear on the record.
Right.
The reinstatement is basically $60 for the license. So there are no late fees because you're not renewing. It would be just a license fee. Yes, sir.
So a yes approves the waiver of the exam, a no denies the waiver of the exam, and that should clarify our motion of where we're at. We cannot waive fees. Okay. So I'm going to call the vote. We do have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. All opposed say no.
No.
The noes carry. This motion is denied. The exam will not be waived.
Thank you, Chairman Gillihan. There are no other questions. We will proceed to our next applicant under miscellaneous. This is a need to retest pursuant to -124B, which states that a barber instructor must have their continuing education hours, and for good cause, the board may extend that time frame for the instructor continuing education, and as long as it is due to medical hardship or a death in the family, then the extension would be granted. This is Ms. Bridget Maynard, who has sent an email explaining the health issues she has with the newborn and having to keep up with the newborn's needs. She was unable to complete one of her continuing education sessions offered, and so she is asking for leniency on having completed that, so she would not have to retest as an instructor due to the speaking. And that starts on 135 of your iPad, if you need to review it, I apologize.
So Roxana, her license has been expired since June of '23. She simply wants to renew and request a CE extension. There is a one-time extension while you're in.
Extension for good cause. The document she provided, the email regarding the baby and everything she had to keep up with, justifies that somewhat. And so she would be, and under the barber statute, and I know the members know that, there's a little bit more leniency under the barber instructor continuing education that there is not under the cosmetology. It actually says that as long as you've requested the extension within a year and you've got good cause, you could do that. That statement's not there under cosmetology. And so, our cosmetology instructors, if they miss the continuing education, and they've already gone past it, then they have to retest. In this particular case, she has a good cause, and under the barber, it gives her a little bit more leniency.
And she is within the calendar.
Just barely. Just barely, yes.
Now, her master barber license has expired as well? Because on 137, looks like the application is to renew the master barber license?
It is. And so she would have renewed it, but remember that your basic license has the 3 years. And so, yes, she's renewed that one. It's the continuing education for the instructor.
Gotcha, okay.
Yes.
I make a motion that with her we extend her continuously.
We have a motion by Monica to approve. Do we have a second? Okay. We have a second. Is there any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no.
Thank you.
Motion carries.
And that was a motion by Monica Lemons and a second by Terry Baldwin. Thank you so much, Chairman Gillihan. So the next item for us to review and go over would be the financial records under the director's report. That's on page 140. I am happy to say, for all of us that have budgets and numbers, we have $119 left for this year.
Wow.
So that's about as even as you could possibly get.
We are in the black.
They're in the black. So we have $119,000 fiscal year 2023-2024. That's through April. I do think we have a chance of finishing this year in the red, which is going to be obviously just a great thing. Our reserve balance is $1,222,592. We had talked about raising fees, and we're probably a little bit too early to do that because, as the board knows, and we talked about it at our April meeting, the compact did pass, and it got signed, which is going to be a really wonderful thing. We're the 6th out of 7 states. The 7th has passed, so we're starting to work on it now. It's going to require some changes to our fees because when we launch that multi-state, and it'll take every bit of a year, it'll impact us because we'll have to collect the money and pass it through. It'll also reduce our reciprocal numbers because people should be wanting to come to Tennessee and getting all these pieces and take advantage of all that. So I think it makes more sense to wait a little bit on the fee to really see where we are financially, and that way we're not changing fees consistently. And so I think we're going to end this year okay, and the reserves will cover us. If we're short, it won't be that much anyway. So that's the good news.
Out of the blue, how are we doing on Sunset? Is that 6 years or 5 years?
It is secure. I believe we had 6 years, and so we're at least through maybe even 2028, if I'm remembering the sunset numbers, so we should be okay. Now, self-sufficiency is different. If a program or board is not self-sufficient for 2 years in a row, we go before the legislative body. I'm there with 9 programs often, so it's not great, but we have a good explanation, right? A bigger program like ours and one that has as many complaints, and our numbers for complaints have gone up some, we're gonna have a lot of extra fees. And so I think it's great to have reserves, but when you have too much, that's not good either. So I really think it'll be important to look at what those numbers are. I'm happy to say that with the compact, one of the cleanup things that went through is for our master barbers. When you renewed late, the law had your fee doubling. So you didn't owe 60 or just 85. You owed 120 and then 240 and then 480. That fee was just ridiculous. It doubled. That has gone away. So there is no more doubling. Our master barbers will have the $25 penalty. So financially, that'll hit us, but it's the right thing. So we've been trying that for a while. So that doesn't need a motion. That's information for the members. The next item that I do need a motion are our 2025 meeting dates. I've emailed those to everyone and happy to send them again. When the board approves them, they'll be posted on the website. So we have, as usual, February, April, June, August, October, and December, every other month, always that first Monday in the month. I would need a motion to approve these dates, if that's okay with the board.
Make the motion to approve.
Ms. Judy McAllister made the motion to approve.
Second.
Ms. Perry made the second. All in favor, say aye. Motion carries.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, board members. If you will, on your iPads, make sure to switch over to the legal report. We have finished the presentation items, and so I'm going to turn it over to Michael Underhill, our attorney, to go over the complaints, and then we have proposed rules by Joe. So if the members need a break, we can take one. If you're ready to continue, we can keep going. Thank you. Mike, I think you've got the...
Thank you, Roxanna, and good morning, board. As you can see, we have 130 cases, 3 represents, 15 barber cases, and 112 cosmetology cases. It has been pointed out to me on item number 15 that one change needs to be made to where it says first license obtained from 2028 to obviously 2024. Absent that, I know the board has some questions, especially when we have 130 cases. Any questions you have, I'll be happy to try to answer.
I have a question. I'm wondering if you all will reconsider, and I believe there was a misunderstanding under Gloria Jean Smith. I am willing to send in the money for fees for the esthetician and for the barber's license. It was the late penalties that I was asking that be waived. I've had medical hardships, financial hardship, and family service to take care of my mother. And I don't mean to talk out of turn, but I just think there's a misunderstanding.
Ms. Smith, I need to have you pause there. We've acted on your case already, and Ms. Roxanna will be in contact with you through the board's office at this point. We've moved on to other business at this time. Thank you. Mike, it appears you've done such a great job, there might not be a lot of questions.
Yeah,
Thank you.
better and better.
It does appear there's just more and more unlicensed activity every time.
The civil penalties are being assessed. Is the money being collected?
David, if I could ask you to speak up.
Oh, I'm sorry. On the civil penalties, as they're being assessed, is there an effective process in place to collect those penalties?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Yes.
And does that go into the general fund, those?
It is our money. It stays
Okay.
with the board. Yeah. So on the, financial report, you have revenue, and then there's a case number for civil penalties. That's
Okay.
where they come in. That's a
I'll
great
go back and take a look. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Mike, on, item 54. Alleged and unlicensed instructors, they are licensed, okay. I'm sorry, I answered my own question. Okay, item 67, that's page 22 in your report. So that just appears, the student thought they were working, or somebody was working prior to when they should have been.
Are you referring to number one?
Number one on that, yeah, I see that one.
Yeah, when I get one that has multiple parts to it, that's the only way I know how to
Break it down.
So in these cases, that you're allowed to bring children to.
Could you speak up, because
Oh,
we
okay.
need to make sure everybody's on the record.
Okay, I'm sorry, Monica Lemons. I was just asking, so you're allowed to bring children to the school to begin with?
I believe, if I'm remembering that one correctly, it was the owner of the school's children.
And they're allowed to bring their kids?
I mean, there's nothing in our statute
Yeah.
that says they can't, there's nothing that says they
Okay.
can. I would imagine, just like any business, if there's a, take your children to school day, or you
They
have
would,
an
they would be allowed to be
emergency.
on the floor, or in a separate room.
Well,
There's no law about either way.
no,
Oh, okay.
we
Oh,
serve
okay.
as children, right?
Right.
So, but if obviously they're getting out of hand, those would be business decisions, and your students wouldn't be happy if kids are not under control.
Mhm.
And this one was not.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unhappy student that told you to go home. I've had 3 phone calls, people asking me what I can do. This school's not run well. Yeah, put a complaint on it.
Members, do we have any other questions on the legal report?
If not, I'd make a motion, we accept it.
I have a question. So this pertains to our April meeting. Do y'all remember, the inspector went to that one shop and they asked the inspector to leave? Is that on here? That's what I was looking for. If we went back, or,
I don't believe, I may have to take a peek at that one, but I don't believe we have had anything back on that yet. I don't know if that's still out there or not, but I'll look into that.
Do we have any other questions?
And Chairman Gillahan, that's motion to accept as amended.
Yes. Do we have a second?
I second.
Ms. Monica seconded the motion. Are there any other questions or discussions? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carries.
Thank you, members.
you.
That was a motion by David McElroy and a second by Monica Lemons. And so that concludes, thank you, Mike, the legal report and a pretty big legal report for this meeting. The next item, I will turn it over to Joe, and that starts on your iPad on page 46. Joe, all yours, and you've got, I think, Mike to capture. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Ms. Roxana. Board members, you'll see a copy of my rules that Roxana has let us do on the presentation. As you can see, this is a substantial revision of both the barber and cosmetology rules. These revisions have arisen from the government's directive last year. The department review all rules for our programs and eliminate rules that are either superfluous or violate laws that have been instituted since, basically a big rule package cleanup to make sure that everything becomes more clear and that there's no conflict between statute and rules that may have been enacted or repealed on their own. So these rules arise from that. There are a couple of items I would like to just touch on briefly before we go through the rulemaking package, which may assist on a couple of the changes referenced in the rulemaking package. We've discussed as a board 3 bills that could potentially impact the program earlier this year. That was the Cosmetology Compact, which created a multi-state licensure program. The next one was the Restricted Retail Business Alcohol License, which would allow barber and cosmetology and dual shops to sell alcohol to clients if they meet the criteria for that license. And then the third bill or piece of legislation that we discussed earlier this year was an extension of the promised scholarship to students applying for private schools. I just want to quickly say the Cosmetology Compact was passed. That legislation is going to go into effect on July 1. Amazing news, we already have 7 states that have joined. So what that means is the bill becomes active in Tennessee, the compact, and then there's a couple of associated revisions, and I'm going to touch on a couple of those in a moment. But we go active in July 1. The 7 member states allow for the multi-state organization, which is going to be new, to begin taking place. So there's actually going to be work and making up ground amongst the states to set up this new program now that we have 7 states. I wanted to go ahead and just for informational purposes, give you an update on who those 7 states are. That's Alabama, Arizona, Colorado, Kentucky, Maryland, Tennessee, and Virginia. So quite a few states in our region, but also a couple of states on the other side of the country as well. So that's going to
Please repeat those.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Alabama, Arizona, Colorado, Kentucky, Maryland, Tennessee, and then Virginia.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So understand that the multi-state license is not in effect yet. This essentially is the groundwork, and now that 7 states have joined, those 7 states will send representatives, and they will work as a team to set the new rules for the multi-state license, okay? So we've been answering questions on that because it's kind of confusing because the legislation passed in Tennessee and becomes effective July 1, but the multi-state framework does not yet exist. So that's the work that's got to take place. And then, like I said, the promised scholarship, unfortunately, did not pass. So that bill that we talked about did not go into effect. The residential or the restricted retail alcohol license passed as well. So that is going to be part of this rulemaking package, and we'll see I removed the rule prohibiting the sale of alcohol, and that's why. Not that, this is something that we're emphasizing. We have to now correspond with the new legislation that's been passed by Congress. Finally, before we jump in the rulemaking package, and I apologize for being long-winded, but we have a lot going on as a program right now. In February, on February 5th at our board meeting, I went over the ILAF specialist rules with you all. You all approved them. I just wanted to give you an update on that. Those rules are going to be going in front of GovOps on June 25th. Let me double check that. Yep, June 25th. So essentially the legislators will have reviewed those rules, will present any questions or raise any issues that they see with us, and as long as everything looks good to them, those rules will then be officially, approved by the legislature, and then they will be effective July 11th. So that's also taking place now.
Joe, real quick,
Yes.
when, with the alcohol, when is that going into effect? Or
July 1.
July 1. So then, as a shop owner, I could apply for a license to then sell alcohol?
Correct. Now, it's not with us.
Okay.
Your board
No,
of
you have to-
Cosmetology, we don't handle alcohol.
You have to do it through the beer board or?
ABC
Okay,
and
yep.
beer. So essentially what it, license will allow cosmetology, barber, and dual shops to sell alcohol if they so choose. At that point in time, if the business owner decides that's the route they want to go, they will then have to apply for this newly created alcohol license, which is called the restricted retail. It has criteria. If you elect to build your business in that way, ABC will also be doing inspections of your property. It will no longer just be Barber Cosmo. And then we also, as a board, will not be enforcing alcohol laws, right? That's not what we're experts in. That's not what we're authorized to do. So we're going to be kind of working hand in hand with ABC as far as our inspectors. If we see anything going on that violates the ABC rules, and then vice versa, if they see something that they're aware of that would violate our rules on an inspection, we do expect there to be communication between the two.
So now all complaints via barbershops giving away or adding alcohol to their costs will go through the ABC.
So they can still get alcohol.
Yeah.
Especially a barber shop that, now with this prohibition being removed, they can still give that.
Sure.
I've never been involved with the money side of the, if you're giving away champagne or wine, there should be no fee.
Sure.
But if there are complaints, it just depends what the complaint's about.
Okay.
And also to kind of hit on a point that you just raised, currently cosmetology shops, dual shops can serve alcohol for $0. If they do not apply for the alcohol license, they still have that ability. Okay, this would be for them to decide, hey, we want to make money off of the distribution.
I want to for $30. We got a $5 haircut. They're getting money, don't worry.
Going to the multi-state license, what's the process on issuing one of those licenses? Does each state have the authority to issue the license?
So the license will be issued by the Multi-State Commission, which will be this new organization over. And then you would have to have already had a license in what they deem your home state. Okay, so essentially, you have to show the ability that what you consider to be your main residential state, that you meet those criteria,
Right.
those laws, hold an active license, and then you would be eligible to apply for this new license, which would allow you to practice in any of the member states.
So where is this compact located, and do the states that are partners share in the revenue, or?
So all
That
those
work.
details, these are great questions. All those details are going to be created by the rules and regulations that this commission that is about to unite for the first time are going to discuss and then implement rules. So a lot of the actual mechanics of the legislation are yet to be determined because essentially we had to get enough states in board to begin talking about this. This is, for lack of a better example, it's like the Continental Congress, right? We have enough colonies now to send representatives that we got to talk about, a charter that covers all 13 colonies.
And how are we, as Tennessee, represented?
I will be
Okay.
representing.
That
Yes.
greatly increases my trust in the process.
I've been involved and very blessed to be involved since we started the conversation, so.
I feel much better about it.
In our, I was in the CEU class, Sunday and Monday. You said that this is only for cosmetologists, estheticians and all of them, they did not.
Not at all.
Will there be another opportunity for the other disciplines to join once?
It's unlimited.
Okay.
If real estate agents wanted to do a compact, they could.
Mhm.
So within cosmetology, our hope would be barbers,
Mhm.
mostly because we're a combined board.
Mhm.
We have several states where it's only one license, and so they're gonna be faced with some unique situations when it's just one.
Yeah.
Because the way this is written, it is strictly cosmetology, no instructor,
Uh-huh.
so you would get that multi-cosmetology license only. And as time continues, yes, the goal is to add all of those disciplines. It allows mobility, which is the key piece. So, yeah.
And so if someone, it would have to be from the 7, or if we don't get any more, right? Could they come from any state outside of the 7 that that are already on board, or?
The multi-state license is only gonna apply to member states, because like, it wouldn't be fair. Like, hey,
Right,
we're
right.
setting rules and regulations, and we're already stating that each one of us has to have already licensed you as a home state before you join the pack.
Correct.
You can't just join in. Number one, that new state's gonna have no input on the rules and regulations.
Mm-hmm.
And so, the enforcement of any of these rules would be very tiresome, because why would that state comply
Right.
when they can do it?
Right, okay.
And one other thing, and I'm sorry for going back and forth, but these are great questions, and like I said, this compact is a huge piece of legislation. Here's another very important point for everyone to understand regarding the compact. Within that piece of legislation, Public Chapter 1060, if I'm not mistaken, check my notes, you have the compact. It is like 25, 26 pages of like the 30-plus page document. If you notice and read in detail, you will then start seeing revisions to current laws that apply in Tennessee only for barber and cosmetology. So when I say the law goes into effect July 1, hey, it's the green light for the compact, but the state-specific changes, and I'm going to highlight 3 of them real quick, will be effective immediately July 1. It eliminates the high school requirement. So 2 years of high school is currently a requirement to apply to be a student at a private barber or cosmetology school. The legislature has decided to remove that requirement from statute. The only requirement now to apply for a private school is that you're 16 years of age. There was also wording in the statute currently written that if you hadn't completed 2 years of high school, you could get around that by, basically passing the GED or the test established by the Board of Education. That's going to be gone as well. So literally the only requirement in order to go into the school is now 16 years of age. That's in the compact, right? So that's confusing. We're talking about a multi-state license. Now we're talking about the changing of eligible students. It was a huge piece of legislation. The next thing is, Roxana mentioned it earlier to you all, the late renewal for barbers. By statute, it said it had to be double the fee if you had renewed your license on time. Cosmo, we only assessed a $25 fee for late renewal of the license. The statute that says the barber late renewal must be double the original fee is also going to be taken away. So now the board will have authority to set a late renewal fee for, barbers who apply late. So that's going to be another thing that we'll need to discuss and implement moving forward. And then the very third thing is, for instructors, they no longer will need to have 3 consecutive years of licensure in order to apply to be an instructor. They would only need 3 years of licensure. It no longer needs to be consecutive. And that's all included in that same piece of legislation. So as you can imagine, it's got quite a few ramifications around the program.
As this rolls out and actually starts to become more effective, it's important to understand that the barbers are not included in this compact at this time. The hope, of course, is that as soon as things move correctly, that it can be added very quickly. That's why he said it's open and hopeful that many other boards will join into this. A lot of work has gone into this for a lot of years now. It's very exciting for me to see this coming to fruition. I hope that it continues on this path. David, I know you like to ask some of these questions sometimes. The exams that we administer in Tennessee today, are labeled, entitled the National Barber Exam, so in the National Cosmetology Exam. So the work that's been done with our testing companies has been for the last several years working towards this in order for it to be prepared, because it's not just one of the requirements for cosmetology in Tennessee. Other states have to agree and buy into this idea as well, so we have to find that common ground across the board. Again, some states may have not ever had a high school requirement. Some states had an age requirement or not. So those things have to be kind of sussed out. And I know the folks that are working on that have put a lot of effort and time in it.
Now, do we think, because I know this has come up years and years and years, but like, do we think at some point they'll just combine the licenses so that it becomes a little bit more easier to cross the line?
That's above my pay grade.
That is legislation,
Yeah.
so we wouldn't, I mean, we can think about it, but that is proposed by you to your representative.
Yeah.
House or Senate, and if they like it, it moves forward. If they don't, it dies.
Yeah.
It isn't created by the board or by us, but a few states now do have it, and different, we've had legislation attempt to do that, and it didn't move forward.
Yeah.
So right now in the compact, we're only looking at cosmetology as a license, not the sub-elements.
No.
And to be eligible, you have to be licensed in your state in good standing. There's no testing or anything else, but if you're licensed and in good standing, you're eligible to apply for and get this multi-compact license, correct?
As long as that state has signed this into
The
law.
state is signed.
Right.
Got
This applies to the 7 members.
Thank
If not, you'd have to file for reciprocity. just
Correct.
Like you do
Just like
now.
now.
Like you always have.
Correct, yes.
Thank you, Joe.
Good
That's excellent report on that. And I know it's a confusing topic in a lot of ways because it is so big.
It's very,
And it's going to drive a lot of other changes going forward.
okay, with that framework being set, let's go ahead and jump into the details of these rules. Like I said, there's a lot here, so that's why I wanted to send it to you in writing to review. I'm going to briefly touch on each section because you've had a chance to read and review them on your own. I'm not going to read it word for word. Also remember, today I'm presenting these rules to you in generality, and then I'm going to request permission from the board that we can set a rulemaking hearing in the future at one of our board meetings once these have gone through all the internal justifications in legal and with the commissioner's office so that we sign off on it. Then they will be presented to you all formally, and then you can request specific changes to the rules as drafted at that point in time. So I don't want anyone to feel like, hey, you have to have all of your revisions today. If you do have any revisions today, please let me know. I'll write them down, and then I can work on them, and then we can review everything together finally at the rulemaking hearing in the future.
Okay.
But I will be requesting after we go through these rules permission that we do move forward with the rulemaking process here later this year.
Proceed.
All right, so let's go ahead and start with Chapter 0200-01. This rule change would give the board the discretion to set how much or how little instructional floor space is needed. You're not going to be bound to a specific number underneath the rule. The next one simplifies the process by which someone can either put or pull their license out of inactive status. It just basically updates it to current technology by stating that you can send an email or a written request into the board for their consideration. Let's see here. 0200-01.09 essentially states that we would no longer have an applicant who, and so it deletes the language, an applicant who attains a passing score on one part of the examination shall be excused from retaking such part for up to 3 additional examination attempts. So essentially there would no longer be that limitation on 3 examination attempts. (0200-01-.10) original license fee. Again, it's going to give the board more discretion to either waive or offer an extension for this requirement upon written request by the applicant. Same thing with 0200-01.10. I would like to announce a change that I've seen, and if you all agree, I'll move forward with it. We just mentioned the change in fee for a late renewal for barbers. I think it would be wise for us to include a potential revision to the fee if you all think that we should change that fee now that the law no longer requires doubling while we're doing this. If we're going to change all this rules, why don't we go ahead and choose this? I will tell you, I hadn't previously included that. Came to my mind while I prepped for the hearing, so I made a notation. That section would be 0200-01-.11-1A4. That currently states the late renewal fee would be $60. We'd be looking at changing that rule to a fee that you guys will allow to be set yourself. But that's not included, and I wanted to bring that up to you because I think it's worth our time to, again, knock out as much as possible. In order to activate a retired license under .13, we no longer want to look at the age of the individual, age discrimination, or anything like that. Instead, we thought it would be pragmatic to look at how long the license has been in a retired status. Again, kind of the discussion earlier today, are you updated on the laws or XYZ? And then the process to pull your license out of the retired status. Again, looking at the years that it's been in it, as opposed to how old you are and the requirements. .04, communicable diseases. We are removing the language, no master barber or barber technician who knowingly has an infectious or contagious disease, parasitic infection, or communicable stage shall give service in any shop. I believe that was part of the retrospective review. The prohibited hazardous substances, it said inconsistent with cosmetic products, bland word. The FDA doesn't use such language, so we went ahead and said it's either banned or not by the FDA, and then it would, because banned is an official word used by the FDA in the program. .16 deletes number 2, so then number 3 becomes number 2, and number 2 read skin removal techniques and practices which affect the living layers of facial skin known as the dermis are prohibited. And then we jump to the cosmetology rules, change of school or ownership. You no longer would be required to report within 10 days of any change. I believe that's required somewhere else in our rules, that you update us immediately of any change to your business or school. So it was superfluous. .10, original license fee. Again, we don't want to look at someone's age and put criteria based on their specific age, instead how long the license has been retired or not. Also, let's jump to .14. That's changing the range in which you can set penalties. As it was currently written, technically, the board did not have the ability to set a penalty below $250. I don't know in reality if you ever would, but now we want to make sure we're current. You guys have the full realm to set a penalty of any amount. So that's why the new range is $0 to $1,000, because technically by rule you couldn't do $249. The lowest limit is $250. The expedited licensing for certain military personnel or spouses, there was federal legislation passed, which essentially, and I believe it's a good thing, affords more rights and easier access to multi-state licensure and new state licensure for wives or spouses of someone in military service, because they do move around the country quite a bit. So this mirrors the requirements of the federal statute. Okay, .04, you no longer have to have a copy of the cosmetology law at the school in and of itself. So then the other requirements bump up. And then inspections, we removed the language that talks about a relocated cosmetology establishment. facilities.
And some of these items are another place in case members are looking at it and look like we're just getting rid of it. They're somewhere else. So,
Again, it's part of the cleaning up process, but again, it's hard for me to have the full retrospective review, which is a 50-page document over here, and these rules for us all to look together. So a lot of these I've just jumped ahead for you to the surface language. And then, let's see here. 0.16, no high frequency electric current shall be used in the coagulation of human tissue or in the removal of superfluous hair, moles, warts, or appendages from the skin. And then following that, and I think to save the board more time unless you'd like me to go through it, are straight repeals. So instead of amending rules, everything that follows at the bottom of page 8 would be the repeals for both barber and the cosmetologist. And then I'll just go ahead and open it up to you all if you see any issues, concerns, questions, and we can touch on those specifically and move forward. Oh, I do have one additional. I apologize. On page 11, 0.16, and that repeal, I had currently drafted it that 1, 2, and 3 are repealed. Roxana reviewed these rules, and she brought up a great point. We want to keep number 3, which would be any salon shop or establishment participating in an apprenticeship curriculum posted a sign announcing that it is participating. Obviously, that's a good thing for customers. So currently drafted, that shows that it will be repealed. Roxana and I agree. We're going to go ahead and keep number 3. So that will be the only section of those that are remaining.
On page 11, Joe, 1.6 at the bottom, number 1, when that's being repealed, are we really saying here that we're not going to be able to issue a license for those specialty type schools? Is that what it's saying, or am I just misunderstanding that?
My understanding is there's other rules that give the board to the authority to license schools specifically, and we specifically reference them. I think this was pre-existing before we started.
Redundant.
Yeah, that's correct. Yes.
Looks like we've got some work coming up.
Yeah. And again, you guys will be able to review the official wording approved by legal department at our rulemaking hearing later this year if you guys so choose to give me the authority to move forward in that process, and then we can change specific language at that time.
Joe, do you need any type of a motion for the process now?
yes, we would need a motion and a second if the board so chooses for Joe to go ahead and move forward preparing the documents for the hearing. I don't think that the August 5th meeting would work. It may be too soon, but if not, maybe October. So he's going to look at the timeline for that, but at least proceed with that if the board motions it.
I'll keep you updated at each board meeting moving forward on how they're moving in our internal justification and approval process. And then once they're approved within legal, we'll go ahead and set that rulemaking hearing and welcome anything.
I'll make a motion for Joe to go ahead,
I'll second.
get that going for us.
So, Monica made a motion to approve, to authorize Joe to proceed to move us towards rulemaking hearing, and seconded by Ryan. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Go to work.
Good
I hope so. I was really weighing how much to go in those roles or not, because it would take a lot of time if we did. But again, if you guys have any questions at all, we can touch on them at the following board meeting.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Joe. That was excellent. Members, I don't have any new business. I want to make sure that we take just a second in case anyone is participating virtually that hasn't had an opportunity to speak or has any questions, to send us a note.
Roxana, do we not have one other school to look at?
No, just two.
I have two.
If you looked at the original, they bowed out and got a refund and are no longer going to be applying for that school. So, yeah. So I have nothing else, Chairman Gillian. I'll turn it over to you.
Don, do we have any public speakers?
No, sir, no one was okay.
Okay. In that case, friends, members, thank y'all for participating. Thank you for being here today. I kind of like our new digs up here. I like the view that we've got. Wherever we land every time, it's always good to be together. Safe travels as you come and go.
Need a motion to adjourn?
Did you have a question?
I did. I would like some clarification on the compact.
Can we get your name?
Let me, Lisa, Dana, can you hear Lisa?
I could hear her until if there's more than one person speaking, then I can't hear.
Scoot your chair anywhere nearby, you'll be great. Thank you so much. I would just like some clarification as far as the compact goes. When you're talking about cosmetology license, that is the license that's within the compact, correct? That is the only one that this compact is written to move forward with. Okay. So my clarification would be, if you are an instructor, a cosmetology instructor, you would be able to apply for a cosmetology practitioner's license under the compact, correct? The basic, the discipline of cosmetology. Right. That is it. Yeah. Okay. So, but in the future, if an instructor license became part of the compact, you could do that. That would, to be very honest and give you my opinion, that will take longer than the others because most states now do not have an instructor license. Okay. The other question I have is when I initially looked at obtaining a Tennessee license, now I had two licenses prior in a different state. One that was an aesthetics license that went into effect in '94. The other was a full cosmetology license that went into effect in '97. Okay. When I initially applied for the aesthetics license, it could not be granted to me because the differential between the hours required. So I applied for a reciprocal license as far as cosmetology. Got the time on that, went to school, became an instructor under cosmetology. So my question is, and I spoke with you about this before, Roxana, is having the option of keeping my or obtaining an esthetician license within the state of Tennessee because you passed the 80 or 85% rule as far as hours that were required, but was pretty much said, no, we don't offer, if you have that instructor license, you can't do the other license. If you have a cosmetology instructor license, right, you can teach all the disciplines. Right, but if I wanted a separate practitioner's license just for my own. Right, we'd have to review. You'd apply for reciprocity if you have an active aesthetics license. Sure. And we'd review it. Okay. All right, so that was kind of my question. So at this point in time, if I wanted to obtain a separate aesthetics practitioner license within the state of Tennessee, I would just have to apply and do the required things to get that. Because my question is, my purpose of that is, if the practice of aesthetics was ever added to the compact, then I would be able to apply there. Since currently it is only just the umbrella cosmetology and does not include the other disciplines, correct? Correct. Okay, got it. Thank you. You got it.
Do we have any other questions or comments? Okay. At this point, I wish everybody safe travels and thank you all for being here today. We have a motion to adjourn. We have a motion to adjourn. Do we have a second? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned.
Okay,
Thank
so I
you,
got a couple
members. Be
cases.
safe. Thank you for being so quick and allowing us to reschedule this meeting. It is really